5 years ago, Julia looked me in the eyes and said the words that still echo in my head like a scar that never healed. Leave, and never come back, just vanish, no tears, no hesitation, just cold, final words delivered with a tone that shattered my world. And I did. I walked away without asking why, without begging, without screaming, but I never stopped wondering what I did wrong. Back then, I wasn't a wealthy man. I had big dreams, sure, I was working a modest IT job, barely affording my apartment. But I was a man of purpose. Julia and I had met in a bookstore, one of those rainy day meetings that felt like fate wrote it. She was sitting in the poetry section, reading Neruda aloud under her breath. I pretended to be looking for something on the shelf nearby, just to hear her voice longer. We talked, and never stopped talking. In months, we moved in together. In a year, we were planning a future. She was my world, radiant, artistic, with a quiet strength in her that drew everyone in. So you can imagine what it did to me when she looked at me that rainy October morning, no warning, no let up, and said, "You have to go. Don't contact me. Don't come back. Just disappear." At first, I thought it was a test. Or a twisted joke. I waited for her to laugh, or cry, or explain. But she didn't. She closed the door behind me. Locked it. I stood outside for 15 minutes in the rain before I finally walked away. I didn't eat for 2 days. Didn't sleep for more than an hour at a time. I kept replaying every word, every glance, wondering where I failed her. What I missed, who I had become, and eventually, I did what she told me. I vanished. For 5 years, I disappeared from her world. I changed my number, deleted our old photos, moved out of state, and poured myself into work, not as a distraction, but as rebirth. If she didn't want me in her life, then I'd build a new one. One that no one could ever throw away. And I did. I started a freelance software business. One client turned into 10. Then 100. In 3 years, I had 12 employees, a mid-sized office downtown, and a 7-figure revenue stream. My name was on the lips of tech firms and startups. I spoke at conferences. I got my first feature in Forbes. But behind all of that, was the silence. Because no matter how high I climbed, the ghost of her was always there. In bookstores, in poetry, in the smell of rain on pavement. I never told anyone the full story. Not even when I dated again. Because how do you explain being abandoned with no reason, and still loving the person who did it? Then came the invitation, a handwritten envelope, no return address. Inside, you were cordially invited to the Crescent Hearts Charity Gala, Saturday, 8 p.m., formal attire. At first, I assumed it was sent to me as part of a general donor list. I'd made a few anonymous donations here and there. But as I looked closer, I saw the familiar handwriting. Elegant, slanted slightly to the right. A style I knew like my own. It was Julia's. My heart slammed against my ribs. Why would she? Was this a mistake? Was she trying to reconnect? Or was fate finally looping back on itself? I told no one I was going. That night, I wore a black tailored tuxedo, custom made, a far cry from the thrift store suits I used to wear back when I dated her. I got a haircut, polished my shoes, carried myself like a man with answers, even if I was burning inside. The Crescent Hall was glowing under chandeliers, filled with soft jazz music, clinking champagne glasses, and smiling strangers. But I wasn't looking at any of them. I was looking for her. And then, at the far end of the room, I saw her. Julia. She was standing near the balcony doors, dressed in a midnight blue gown that hugged her frame delicately. Her hair was longer, pulled back elegantly, but her posture was the same. That mix of poise and grace I once loved waking up beside. I froze, and at that moment, as if pulled by some invisible thread, she turned. Our eyes met, and in a single second, 100 emotions collided. Shock, fear, recognition, and then, she fainted. Gasps filled the room. People rushed to her side. A waiter dropped a tray. I stood motionless for a moment, processing what had just happened. Then I moved. By the time I reached her, a woman was already checking her pulse, saying, she just lost consciousness. Julia's eyes fluttered open, and when she saw me kneeling beside her, she started trembling. Daniel, she whispered, but I couldn't speak. Not yet. I looked into the face of the woman who told me to disappear 5 years ago. And all I wanted, more than closure, more than revenge, was the truth. Why did she push me away? And why did seeing me again now shake her to her very core? The moment Julia opened her eyes and whispered my name, the room seemed to fade into silence. Daniel. Her voice trembled, her fingers instinctively reaching for me before she quickly pulled them back, as if burned by her own impulse. Paramedics were called. She insisted she was okay, just lightheaded, maybe low blood sugar, maybe too much wine. But I knew better. It wasn't the wine, it was me. They guided her to a side lounge to let her rest, and I followed from a distance. I wasn't going to leave, not this time. Not without answers. After a few minutes, one of the event organizers came over and said, "She's asking for you." My heartbeat quickened as I walked through the velvet curtain and into a quiet room with soft lighting and plush chairs. Julia sat near a window, a cup of water shaking slightly in her hand. She looked up. Her eyes were misty, tired, terrified. "Hi," I said quietly. Her lips parted as if to speak, but she said nothing. So I sat across from her. 5 years had passed, but it felt like no time at all. And yet, she looked older, not in years, but in weight, like life had placed something unbearably heavy on her shoulders. I waited. Finally, she spoke. "You weren't supposed to come." My jaw clenched. "You invited me. I didn't think you'd show." I stared at her. 5 years ago, you told me to leave. No reason, no closure, just vanish. I did exactly that, and now I walk into a room and you collapse at the sight of me. Tears formed in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't come for an apology," I said softly. "I came for the truth." She looked down at her hands, twisting a silver ring I'd never seen before. And then, she began. "Daniel, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer." I froze. "I found out the day before I asked you to leave." Everything inside me went still. I was scared, she continued, voice cracking. Terrified, actually. They said the chances weren't great, that the treatments would be aggressive, that it would change everything. And I didn't want you to go through that. "Why wouldn't you tell me?" I whispered. "Because I loved you too much." Her eyes met mine, glistening. "I didn't want you to spend your life waiting in hospital rooms, watching me wither, trying to save someone who might not survive. I wanted you to live. To become the man I knew you were meant to be, without being tied to a dying woman." A tear slipped down her cheek. "So I made it easy for you to leave me. I made you hate me." My chest tightened. All those nights I cried, all the pain I carried, and she had been fighting for her life. Alone. I told no one, she said. I shut everyone out. I lost my hair, I lost weight, I nearly lost my life. But I survived, and when I came out the other side, I looked for you. My head snapped up. "What?" She nodded. "I tried, I searched everywhere, but you had disappeared completely. New number, no social media, new city. It was like you'd died. You told me to vanish," I said bitterly. "I was just following orders." She winced. "I know, I deserved that." I stood up, walked toward the window. "So all these years, you never stopped thinking about me?" "Not for a single day." Silence settled between us like snowfall. "I saw your name on the Crescent donor list last year," she said. "It had to be you. I didn't know how else to reach you. So I sent the invitation, not expecting anything. Because you assumed I'd moved on," I said. She gave a sad smile. "You're successful now. You look incredible." Of course I assumed. I turned to her. "You fainted when you saw me." "Because I thought I was hallucinating. I thought my heart was playing a cruel trick." I walked closer, knelt in front of her. "I would have stayed," I whispered. "Through the chemo, through the surgeries, through the fear, I would have carried you." She nodded. "I know. That's why I had to push you away. You didn't protect me, Julia. You robbed me of the choice to stand beside you." She began to cry, quietly, painfully. "I was so alone," she whispered. "And I missed you so much it physically hurt. I read the poetry we used to share. I played the songs you loved. I'd reach for you in the dark and remember you weren't there." I held her hand. "Then let me say this clearly, so it's never confused again," I said. "I never hated you. I just never stopped loving you." She sobbed harder. We sat in that room for another hour. No one disturbed us. She told me everything. The pain, the surgeries, the isolation, the one moment she thought she'd die without saying goodbye. And how, every time she pictured peace, she imagined me reading to her, holding her, walking with her into the light. But she lived, and I was gone. We were both broken, and rebuilt, in the shadows of each other. Finally, she asked the question that shattered me. Do you hate me? I shook my head. No, I grieved you like you were dead. But now I know, you were just surviving. She placed her hand on my face. I don't know what happens next, she said. I don't expect us to pick up where we left off. I just wanted you to know the truth. I leaned into her touch. You gave me a new life when you left me, I said. But now, I want to know if there's still room for you in it. She smiled, barely breathing the words. I hope so. We left the lounge hand in hand. Not as lovers, not yet, but as two people who had walked through fire, separately, and found each other again in the ashes. Sometimes love returns, sometimes forgiveness opens doors we thought were sealed, and sometimes, the one who told you to vanish, is the one who truly never let you go.